I knew this was going to cause drama the second I hit send on that email. Look, I'm not a confrontational person. I'm the type who apologizes when someone bumps into me at the grocery store. But this wedding, my wedding, is the one day I've been dreaming about since I was the kind of kid who cut up bridal magazines and glued them into a notebook. So yeah, when my fiancé, Daniel, and I decided we wanted a child-free wedding, it wasn't some casual, oh, let's just make a rule thing. We thought about it. We talked about it for weeks. We listed pros and cons. We envisioned the vibe, soft music, candlelight, relaxed conversation, people actually able to hear the speeches. No toddlers screaming during the vows. No little ones darting between tables while waiters carry trays of hot food. The decision felt right. It felt peaceful. The problem? My sister, Claire. Claire has 3 kids, 8, 6, and 3. And don't get me wrong, I love my nieces and nephew. They're adorable and sweet, but they're also loud, chaotic, and have the attention span of a goldfish. I'm the fun aunt who brings crafts and candy. But that doesn't mean I want them running through my reception in their socks, pulling on tablecloths, and knocking over champagne flutes. The no kids rule was in the invite from day one. I even tried to make it gentle. We adore your little ones, but we'd like our wedding to be a child-free celebration so everyone can relax. I even offered to help find a sitter for the day. Claire didn't respond at first. I figured she was busy. But then, the phone call came. It was 10:43 p.m., and I was just about to crawl into bed when my phone lit up. Claire's name. The moment I answered, I knew she was mad. No, hey, how are you? Just, are you seriously telling me my kids aren't invited to your wedding? I tried to explain calmly. It's not just your kids, Claire, it's no kids at all. We just want the atmosphere to be. She cut me off. So I'm supposed to leave my 3 kids with some stranger? While my sister gets married, and I'm hours away. Not a stranger, I said. I can help you find someone you trust. You don't get it, she snapped. You're basically telling me to choose between my kids and your wedding. And I'm telling you right now, if my kids aren't welcome, then neither am I. I froze. My sister, my maid of honor, telling me she won't come. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the call over and over. Part of me felt stubborn. This was my day, my choice. Another part of me felt sick. What if she actually didn't come? What if this ruined our relationship? The next morning, my mom called. I thought maybe she'd be the voice of reason. Instead, she sighed heavily and said, "Sweetheart, maybe you could make an exception for family." I reminded her that Daniel's side had several cousins with kids, too, and if we let one family bring theirs, it wouldn't be fair to the rest. Mom went quiet for a long time before saying, "I just don't want this to cause bad blood." Too late. And then, I saw Claire's Facebook post. She hadn't tagged me, but it was obvious. A long rant about people who preach family values but don't want family at their wedding, followed by a crying emoji and pictures of her kids in dressy outfits. The comments? Full of her friends saying things like, "That's so cold," and "I'd never do that to my sister." And that's when my phone started blowing up. Cousins texting, "What's going on with you and Claire?" My aunt messaging me, "Maybe just let them come." Even my dad texted, "Is this worth all the drama?" At this point, I felt cornered. Do I hold my ground and risk my sister bailing completely? Or do I give in and basically rewrite my entire plan? Then, 3 days later, Claire showed up at my door unannounced. She wasn't alone. She had the kids with her. And she had something to say. When I opened the door that morning, I didn't even get a chance to say hello. Claire was standing there with her kids bundled in coats, each holding some kind of snack wrapper. Her face was flushed, partly from the cold, partly from the very obvious fact that she was still angry. "Can we talk?" she said, already stepping inside. The kids immediately made themselves at home. The 8-year-old, Lily, ran straight to the couch and started flipping through the TV channels. 6-year-old Max dropped his half-eaten granola bar on my coffee table, and the toddler, Sophie, started tugging at my curtain like it was a toy. I tried to smile politely. Sure. Coffee." "No. Thanks," Claire said sharply, motioning for the kids to settle down. They didn't. She stood with her hands on her hips, looking me up and down like she was about to deliver a lecture. "I don't think you understand what you're asking me to do," she started. "You're telling me to leave my children with someone else, for an entire day, in a different town. That's not just no big deal. That's me being away from them overnight, and you know I don't do that." I sighed. Claire, I'm not asking you to do anything reckless. We can arrange for a babysitter, you know. I even talked to Aunt Megan about watching them. She cut in again. It's not about who watches them. It's about the principle. You're literally saying they're not welcome. And if they're not welcome, then I'm not welcome. The toddler was now pulling coasters out from under my coffee mug, and I had to gently take them from her hands. Claire, it's not personal. This applies to everyone's kids. That's not the point, she said, lowering her voice. It's family. Family should be an exception. I felt my jaw tightening. Then where do I draw the line? If I let your kids come, Daniel's cousin will want to bring hers. Then it's half the guest list with children, and suddenly my peaceful atmosphere turns into a daycare. Her eyes narrowed. Wow, so my kids are just noise to you? That hit me harder than I expected. No, that's not what I meant. Yes, it is, she said, grabbing Sophie into her arms. You think they'll ruin your wedding. That's what you're really saying. Max was now running in circles around my coffee table, making airplane noises. Lily had found some kids' show on Netflix and turned the volume way up. I rubbed my temples. Claire kept going, her voice shaking now. Do you know how hurtful it is to hear that? My own sister, the person I've been there for through everything, doesn't want my children at her wedding. And you expect me to smile in the pictures like nothing happened? I'm not asking you to pretend, I said softly. I'm asking you to respect what Daniel and I decided. There was a long pause. I could hear Sophie sucking on her thumb. Lily laughed at something on the TV. Max crashed into the couch with a dramatic oof. Finally, Claire said, then I guess you've made your choice. She gathered the kids' coats. I'll let you know if I'm coming. But don't expect me to just get over this. When the door shut behind her, I just stood there for a moment. My apartment felt weirdly quiet without them, but not in a peaceful way, in a heavy way. That afternoon, Daniel came home and found me still sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone. He sat beside me. How bad was it? Bad, I said, handing him my phone. On the screen was another Facebook post from Claire. This time, a selfie of her and the kids with the caption, "Guess we're not good enough for some people's big day." Daniel frowned. This is getting out of hand. And then he showed me something I hadn't seen yet, a text from his mom. Heard about the drama. Maybe reconsider? It's not worth the family tension. By that evening, I had 4 more relatives texting me, all basically saying the same thing. It felt like everyone was taking sides, and I was the villain. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get more complicated, my phone rang again. This time, it was Dad. And what he said next made my stomach drop. Dad doesn't usually call at night unless something is wrong with the car, or he found a stray cat and needs me to talk Mom out of adopting it. So when I saw his name lighting up my screen, I braced myself with a deep breath and answered on speaker while Daniel sat beside me, his hand finding my knee like a little anchor. Dad's voice was steady, careful. Pumpkin. That's his softening word. He uses it when he's about to nudge me somewhere I don't want to go. Hi, Dad. I just got off the phone with your mother, he said. She's upset. Your sister's very upset. I know. I stared at a dark spot on the hardwood floor like it could swallow this entire mess. I'm upset too. He cleared his throat, and I could picture him in his recliner, glasses sliding down his nose, TV on mute. When you were little, you used to line up your stuffed animals and make us sit through your pretend wedding. You'd walk down the hallway with a pillowcase on your head. I could hear the smile in his voice. Then it faded. I want you to have the day you imagined. I do. But I also can't pretend I like seeing my daughters at odds. I didn't ask for this fight, I said, and my voice came out small, almost childish. Daniel squeezed my knee. I know you didn't, Dad said. But sometimes peace comes from choosing where to bend. Your mother thinks. Mom thinks I should make an exception, I said flatly. There was a long pause. Pumpkin, is there any way to have the kids at the ceremony only? Or an early exit? Something? I closed my eyes. Behind my eyelids I saw table settings, the seating chart, the little candles I'd already bought, the hours spent imagining soft music and quiet clinking of forks during the toasts. Dad, if I make an exception for Claire, I'm going to have to make it for 2 of Daniel's cousins who already asked, and my friend Heather, and maybe our co-worker with the baby. Pretty soon it's not child-free. It's children allowed unless we know you well enough to say no to your face. That's worse. On the other end, the recliner creaked. Your sister said she'd pay to bring a sitter, he said carefully. Daniel made a face. I said, she told me I was making her choose between her kids and me. Dad exhaled into the phone, a long, tired gust. Okay, then I want to propose something neutral. We'll pay for a professional sitter at the hotel ballroom. A separate room. Movies, coloring, crafts. Doors closed. They're not in the reception, but they're close by. Your sister can go check on them between courses if she wants. It keeps your rule, sort of. It keeps her feeling like a mother. My heart actually lifted for a second. I sat up. You do that? Of course, Dad said. Anything to keep the peace. Daniel nodded slowly, then shrugged. It's not the worst idea, he murmured. It honors what we wanted, kind of. Let me talk to the venue tomorrow, I said, hope tugging at my voice. See if there's a room. Do that, Dad said. And Pumpkin, don't read your sister's Facebook right now. It'll only upset you. I had already read it. I lied anyway. I won't. We hung up. I sagged against Daniel, who put his arm around me and said into my hair, This is salvageable. Your dad was reasonable. We'll find a room. We'll hire someone certified. It'll be fine. The next morning I called the venue, a renovated manor that never fails to make me feel 12 years old and overly dressed when I step into its echoing foyer. The coordinator, Bree, yes, like the cheese, she had joked when we met, answered with her always too cheery tone. A kid room, she said. Yes, we've done that. Let me see what's free that day. She put me on hold to the soft instrumental version of a love song I could not place but had danced to in middle school. My stomach knotted as I watched an email preview from Claire pop up on my laptop. We need to talk about logistics. My finger hovered over it. I didn't open it. Bree clicked back on. Okay, so we have the Birch Room open. It's down the hall from the ballroom, separate entrance, close to the restrooms. Fire code says max 20 people, though with kids and sitters you'll want fewer. We'll swap out the Chiavari chairs for floor cushions and kid tables. We require licensed childcare. We can recommend a service. Words poured out of me like a relieved confession. This might actually work. Can you send me a quote? She did. It wasn't cheap. Nothing about weddings is cheap, but it was within the realm of possible. Dad texted me one word after I forwarded it. Approved. I typed out a message to Claire in the Notes app first, editing it 3 times so it didn't sound like a victory speech. Hey, I talked to the venue. We can rent a separate room nearby with certified sitters. Your kids would be close, safe, and you could check on them anytime. It keeps the ceremony and reception adult only, but includes them in the day. Dad and Mom offered to cover the cost. I added a little heart, even though I almost erased it. I hit send. She read it immediately. The little dots popped up right away and then vanished. A minute. 3 minutes. 10. At minute 12 she texted back, I'll think about it. But this still feels like you're ashamed of my kids. Frustration pushed up through my chest, hot and stinging. I took a breath. I am not ashamed of them. I love them. This is about the vibe and the expectation we already set for everyone. The room is a compromise. Please. She didn't answer. That afternoon, Mom called from her office and whispered like she was in a spy movie. Your sister is hurt, she said, like it was brand new information. But the room idea is not terrible. Thanks, Mom. I told her to consider it, but she says the 6-year-old gets nervous with strangers. I can arrange for the sitter to meet them a week beforehand. We could do a little play hour. She says that would help, Mom admitted, and for the first time that week I heard something like possibility in her voice. You know your sister. She likes to mother hard. She hears no kids as you're not a good mother. I know, I said quietly, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is our plan. After we hung up, Daniel and I went out for groceries because the fridge was a graveyard of condiments and one wilted lettuce. In the cereal aisle, as we debated oat clusters versus cinnamon, my phone buzzed. It was a screenshot of a group chat I didn't know existed. Across the top, family, no drama. Under it, a whole conversation between my aunt, 2 cousins, Mom, and Claire. The messages were a messy bouquet of opinions. It's their day, respect it. Kids can behave if you give them a chance. I had kids at my wedding, and it was magical. I went to a child-free wedding once. It was the most relaxing thing ever. Then Claire's message. I'm not going to sit in a broom closet while everyone else has fun. My stomach plummeted. My aunt had sent it to me with the message. You should know what's being said. I'm on your side, but this is getting heated. Daniel glanced at my face. What happened? I handed him the phone. He read, his jaw working. She called it a broom closet? I fumbled for humor to keep from crying. Technically, it's called the birch room. We'll put a birch tree decal on the wall so it's literal, he said, and I almost laughed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on our mattress, tracing the seam in the bedsheet with my finger while Daniel breathed steadily beside me. At 2-something in the morning, my phone vibrated with a text from Claire. What if Sophie cries for me? What if she thinks I abandoned her? I typed back in the glow of the screen. You're not abandoning her. You're at your sister's wedding 2 doors down. You can go in between courses. You can tuck her in after cake. I will make a schedule that builds in check-ins so you don't have to ask. Please, Claire. Please come as my maid of honor. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Fine, but I'm not making any promises about staying the whole night. I pressed the phone to my chest and exhaled, the kind that feels like it empties your bones. I watched the dark ceiling until the sun tried its first shy, gray hello at the edges of our blinds. For 2 days, it was quiet, almost normal. We finalized the menu. Daniel's sister sent a goofy video from a bridal shop where she tried on 3 different dresses and modeled them with exaggerated runway walks. I sent it to Claire with a laughing emoji. She heart-reacted. Progress, right? Then, out of nowhere, the first actual grenade landed. Bree called mid-morning with that pleasant voice that makes bad news sound like it's wrapped in tissue paper. Hey, quick thing. The birch room is yours, all good, but we had a client last night ask about it for a cocktail hour. I held firm and said it's reserved, of course. But it dawned on me. We'll need to run a portable speaker into the room if you want the sitters to have music or movies. That's totally fine. We have it. It just needs to be on your final order so the AV guy can plan. Okay, I said, scribbling notes, grateful it wasn't a big deal. And, she added, voice lowering, I did want to let you know, our venue's owner is very strict about the child-free rule being reflected on the invitation, just for liability reasons. If any kids show up at the ballroom, we'd have to ask their guardians to escort them to the other room. I paused. Ask as in, we'll enforce it, she said. We need that clarity. It protects you, and it protects us. I pressed the phone to my ear and nodded even though she couldn't see me. Okay, that's fine. 2 hours later, Mom called again, breathless. Your sister just told me she might not walk if you station bouncers to turn the kids away. What? I sat up straight at my desk, heart picking up speed. We're not hiring bouncers. She saw Bree's comment about enforcement, Mom said. She heard that as your kids will be escorted like they're troublemakers. I closed my eyes. Sometimes every word felt like a trap. Can you tell her that's standard? I did, Mom said softly. She cried. The next day was my bridal shower. It was supposed to be sweet and silly and full of paper plates with bows taped onto them. It started that way. Claire came, and to my cautious delight, she looked beautiful in a blue dress and, shockingly, she hugged me. I don't want to fight, she whispered into my ear. I'm tired. Me too, I said, blinking hard. We ate little sandwiches. We played the game where people scrawl advice on index cards. Someone wrote, don't go to bed angry. Someone else wrote, marry someone who makes you laugh when life spills milk everywhere. I tucked those 2 into my purse to reread later. Halfway through opening gifts, someone's phone dinged with a news alert, and 3 people picked up their phones out of reflex. In that domino way of phones, within a minute half the room was checking something or other. I tried to keep the energy going, holding up a blender like it was a trophy. Look, smoothie era. And then Claire said, weirdly loud, just so everyone knows, I will not let anyone escort my children anywhere if they need me. The room froze for a breath, confusion skating across faces. My cousin tried to laugh. Like ever? In life? Claire flushed. At the wedding. I set the blender down very gently. Claire, I said, a warning in my voice I hated hearing, not now. She crossed her arms. Everyone's acting like I'm overreacting. Imagine being told your kids are physically barred from seeing you while you're in the next room. How would you feel? The chatter around us stuttered and died again. Mom stood up quickly. Okay, let's do the ribbon bouquet craft. Claire's mouth tightened. She sat back down and looked at her lap. I picked up the next gift and smiled so hard my face ached. After, when people trickled out in that gentle swirl of goodbyes, Claire lingered by the doorway, fidgeting with her car keys. I don't want to be the villain, she said, not meeting my eyes. This is all making me feel like I have to pick. And I hate that. I hate it too. I said truthfully. But I won't change the rule. She swallowed. Then I might have to change something else. I frowned. What does that mean? She looked up at me with eyes that were suddenly watery and fierce. It means if my kids aren't allowed in your wedding, I might not be your maid of honor. My breath caught so sharp it hurt. Claire, I'm going to think about it, she said, backing up, keys rattling in her hand. Don't call me tonight. Please. The door closed. My hands shook. Mom came up behind me and rubbed my back like I was 5 and had scraped my knee. She'll come around, she murmured. I nodded, but the room blurred. Daniel arrived to pick me up, gathered me into the kind of hug that rearranges your insides into something steadier, and drove me home in silence. We were brushing our teeth that night when my phone buzzed from the counter. I spit, reached for it with a damp hand, and saw the subject line of an email from Claire, maid of honor. My heart slammed. I opened it, and when I finished the first paragraph, I had to sit down on the edge of the tub because my knees felt untrustworthy. The email started out stiff, like she'd written it in one long breath. I love you. I want you to have a beautiful day, but I can't stand up next to you as your maid of honor if my children are excluded. Please don't take this as a punishment. I just can't do both roles at once. If I'm there as your sister, I need to be allowed to be a mother too. I hope you understand. I read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't change. Daniel came out of the bathroom with toothpaste on his cheek and sat next to me without asking. I handed him the phone. He read it, then closed his eyes. I shouldn't respond right now, I said. If I respond right now, I'll say something I can't unsay. Then don't, he said gently. But my fingers were already itching. I opened a new message, and instead of replying, I wrote to Bree. Hypothetical question: what happens if my maid of honor drops out a month before the wedding? She replied faster than I deserved. We cry together. Then a new message. Kidding. It's okay. You can have no MOH, or assign one of your bridesmaids to step up. We adjust the rehearsal order and timeline. It happens more than you'd think. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. The thought of not having Claire beside me when I walked down the aisle made my chest feel hollow, like a room after the party has ended and the balloons are all sagging. Mom called first thing in the morning, voice thick like she hadn't slept. She sent the email? She did. I told her she'd regret it, Mom said, then immediately softened. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. She's doing what she thinks she has to do. What if I asked Lily to be a junior bridesmaid and walk in the ceremony? I blurted. Just Lily. The older one. She'd do fine. Silent. Sweet. She could hold flowers. It would make Claire feel like the kids are included, a little. There was a pause while Mom considered the shape of that olive branch. That's an idea. I can't open the floodgates, I said. But Lily is 8. She can follow directions. She can go to the kid room after the ceremony. It's a compromise. I'll ask Claire, she said. I texted Daniel the same thought. He hesitated. If you invite Lily into the ceremony, be ready for the argument that Max should be included, too. And then Sophie. And then the cousins. He was right. But I needed something, some thread to keep tied to my sister, so the whole thing didn't unravel. Mom called back an hour later. She said maybe. She said that would make her feel like the kids are more present in the day. But she won't commit to MOH duties again unless all 3 are included somehow. All 3? I said, sinking into my office chair. Mom, the toddler. I know. Mom cut in quickly. I know. Listen, why don't we do this? You draft a schedule with built-in check-ins. You ask Lily to walk, and we leave the rest for now. One olive branch at a time. So I drafted. It felt ridiculous and comforting at once, typing out blocks like a kindergarten teacher planning a field trip. Wedding day kid plan, draft. 3 p.m., ceremony. Lily walks with bridesmaids, drops petals, exits with sitter to birch room. 3:20 to 4:30 p.m., photos. Claire check-in number 1, 10 minutes. 5 p.m., guests enter ballroom. Kids movie starts in birch room. 6 p.m., dinner served. Claire check-in number 2, 10 minutes. 7:15 p.m., first dance/cake. Kids get cupcakes in birch room. 8:30 p.m., Claire check-in number 3, bedtime tuck-in. 9:15 p.m., if kids are sleeping and sitter feels comfortable, Claire returns to ballroom. I send it to Claire with a simple, working to make this feel okay. I love you. She didn't respond for the rest of the day. My brain invented a dozen interpretations for her silence, each more dramatic than the last. Meanwhile, The other fires kept burning. Daniel's cousin Hannah, who has twins under 5, texted him, "Heard you might be making an exception for your bride's niece-to-be in the ceremony. Just checking. Does that mean my two can come for the ceremony too? They'd be so cute in suspenders." Daniel showed me the message. We both groaned. This was the exact slippery slope I'd been trying to avoid. We wrote back together, choosing each word like it might explode. "We're keeping the no kids policy for guests. Because Lily is immediate family and will be escorted out right after the ceremony by the childcare team. We're making one limited exception to honor a complex situation. We hope you can understand and still celebrate with us." Hannah responded with a thumbs up. And then, "No worries. Just thought I'd ask." With a little winky face that carried a whiff of judgment, or maybe I was just hyper-reading. That night, Daniel's mom called him to say his Aunt Carrie felt slighted. She said she's buying a new dress, and if kids can't come, she'll need to leave at 8 because the sitter charges more after 9. She asked why we can't just invite the well-behaved kids. I laughed, a little wild. "How do we grade them? A behavior report card at the door?" Daniel shook his head. "This is why we made the rule. The second you carve out exceptions, it becomes a debate team." We stuck to it. Lily is a flower girl. Everyone else, no kids. I texted Claire to tell her the plan. She read it. And finally, late, she sent, "Okay, Lily will do it. But I'm still not comfortable with the escort language." I said, "Then I'll change it. No escort. We'll say walk with the sitter." It felt absurd and necessary, like adjusting a tiny screw to stop a giant clock from rattling apart. A week later, the sitters came to meet the kids at Claire's house, because I figured neutral territory would be better. I went along. The two sitters were late 20s, cheerful, absolutely unflappable. They arrived with a canvas tote full of magnetic tiles and crayons. And within 5 minutes, Lily was building a tower taller than the coffee table, while Max drew a dinosaur with wings. Sophie watched them with her thumb in her mouth, and then toddled over and handed one sitter a plastic teacup like an offering. I watched Claire's shoulders go down half an inch. It was the first visible relaxation I'd seen on her in weeks. "Their background checked," I said quietly. "First aid certified. They work in a daycare during the week." "I know," she said. "I Googled them. I figured." I smiled. She almost smiled back. For an hour, we played wedding day pretend. The sitters took the kids to the hallway and back like a little field trip, practicing being brave. Lily held my arm and said, very seriously, "I can walk slow, like a turtle. Is that good?" "It's perfect," I said, kissing the top of her head. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and crayons. After they left, I lingered at the door. "So?" I asked, too casual. Claire looked at me, eyes softer than they had been in weeks. "I'm not promising I won't panic. But I can see it. A day where I'm there for you and my kids are okay, too." I exhaled. "Thank you." For 3 shining days after that, the group chat was quiet. It felt like stepping out from under constant rain. We got our marriage license at the county office and took a picture outside where we looked windblown and giddy. I sent it to the bridal party. Claire liked it with a little confetti emoji. Then my Aunt Lori called out of the blue. She's Mom's sister, the one we don't see much, the one with the layered necklaces and loud laugh, who always spiced family functions with a bit of drama. "You know, this reminds me of Mom's sister's wedding," she said, meaning our grandmother's sister, someone I'd only known in family stories. "Whole family fell out for a decade over who could bring children. Ridiculous." She paused, then added, "Don't let that happen to you and Claire." "I'm trying," I said honestly. "We found a middle ground." She said, like she didn't trust middle grounds. "Well, if that sister of yours pulls any stunts, you call me. I'll handle it." We laughed. I hung up. I shouldn't have felt jinxed. Because the next morning, an RSVP change came through our wedding website. I opened it at my desk with a sip of tea halfway to my mouth. It was Claire's account. She'd changed her status from yes, maid of honor, to yes, guest. And then in the comments, bringing +3. I choked, tea going the wrong way. I coughed until my eyes watered and texted Claire immediately, +3? She replied, "My kids. If Lily is in the ceremony, they count as my plus." My fingers went cold. "Claire, that's not how it works." We agreed. She sent a single line that made my head buzz. "We'll see how I feel that day." I stared at the screen until it blurred, and the only thing I could hear was my heartbeat in my ears. Panic made me efficient. I screenshotted her RSVP and sent it to Mom with a simple, help. Then I called Bree. Okay, Bree said, voice sliding into her competent mode that I'd come to associate with problem solving. RSVPs are not law. It's a web form. Brief. We have your no kids rule in the contract. We'll have signage. We'll have our staff briefed. If children arrive at the ballroom, we will very warmly direct them to the Birch Room with the sitters. No one will be rude. We do this. It's okay. It's my sister, I said. Nothing about this feels okay. I know, she said. But logistically, you are covered. Emotionally, she trailed off because she plans weddings, not families. Daniel came home with a bag of takeout, and I told him in the doorway before he could set it down. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he was calm in that careful way he uses like a tool. We send her one message. We remind her of the agreement. We say there's space in the Birch Room, we've arranged sitters, we love the kids, and we can't make exceptions in the ballroom. Then we stop engaging by text. We say any further logistics should be handled on the phone with us and the venue coordinator together, so nothing is misread. So that's what we did. The message was firm but kind, read out loud 3 times, edited to take out any words that could explode. No enforce, no rule. We used plan and agreement and safety. We offered to do one more meet and greet with the sitters the morning of the wedding, in a quiet corner with snacks, so the kids could feel settled. We hit send. Claire called instead of texting back, which I took as a good sign. I saw your message, she said, voice tight. I think it's reasonable. But I don't like being told what my plus includes. It doesn't include extra human beings, I said, and even though I kept my voice even, I heard the edge. You know that. It includes my heart, she said, and I almost laughed because it was so dramatic it circled back to touching. Look, if I'm on edge that day, I might need my kids near me. They will be near you, I said, just not in the ballroom. Silence stretched. Fine, she said finally. I'll take it off the website. But if Sophie cries when she sees me, I'm not going to walk away from her. I wouldn't ask you to, I said, softening. We'll figure it out. After we hung up, I curled into Daniel on the couch and we ate cold noodles and watched half of a harmless baking show where everyone cheered for each other. I tried to let my brain cool. The days leading up to the wedding started to split in two in my memory. The normal bustle of last-minute errands and the constant low throb of family tension that flared and dimmed. I picked up my dress. It felt like a cloud against my thigh when I brushed past it hanging in the garment bag. Daniel picked up his suit and tried it on in the full-length mirror, doing a stupid little spin that made me snort laugh and then cry, because joy and overwhelm live right next door to each other. Rehearsal day arrived like a date on a calendar that kept quietly exploding as it got closer. We met at the venue, everyone a little giddy and a little tired, and Bree ran us through the steps. Bridesmaids line up here. Groomsmen there. Flower girl, she smiled at Lily. You'll take it very slow. Like you're walking through glue. Lily beamed. Like a turtle. Exactly. Bree winked. Claire was okay. Not cheerful, not cold. Just trying. When the officiant did a mock version of the vows, I felt this weird surge of calm, like the eye of a storm. For a few minutes, the drama shrank to the edges and I could see Daniel's face and imagine us being married, and everything else faded. After the run-through, the plan was to go to the rehearsal dinner at a cozy restaurant down the street where we'd reserved the back room. As we were gathering our bags, Claire came up to me. Hey, she said, eyes flicking to where Lily was chasing Max around a pillar. Can we talk outside a sec? We stepped into the stone courtyard where the fountain made that comforting water sound that I've always secretly wished I could bottle. The air had that almost spring bite, and I rubbed my arms. I want to try, she said, without preamble. The plan, the room, the check-ins. But I need you to know that if any of the sitters look overwhelmed, or if Sophie is inconsolable, I'm going to bring them to me. And if that means I miss your first dance or the toasts, then I miss them. I don't want to, but I can't override my instinct. I wouldn't want you to, I said honest. Just, please don't bring them into the ballroom. Even for a minute. People will see. It will ripple. She nodded. I'll try. I need more than try, I said quietly, and I watched her flinch because the words sounded like a test. I'll do my best, she said finally. How's that? I swallowed. Okay. We went to dinner. People made toasts, nothing heavy, Just the warm kind where your cousin tells a story about the time you made pancakes so badly the smoke alarm went off, and now you're banned from flipping. Daniel's dad teared up while talking about watching his son become the kind of person who says, "We, more than me." And I reached under the table for Daniel's hand, and we squeezed until our knuckles protested. During dessert, Claire stood. She tapped her glass, and the room went quiet. "I'm supposed to make a speech tomorrow," she said, fingers trembling just enough to make my heart trip over itself. "But I want to say something now. My sister and I, we are different. Anyone who's ever watched us pick an ice cream flavor knows this. But we are also the same in the ways that matter. We both feel deeply. We both hang on too long. We both try to make everything okay, even when it's not. I love you, sis. And I'm sorry this has been so hard." The room hummed. People smiled. I wiped my eyes like I wasn't doing it. After dinner, we walked back to the hotel. The bridal party had rooms there, so we wouldn't be rushed in the morning. In the elevator, it was me, Claire, and my friend Heather, who has this magic friend energy that makes everything lighter. We were all quiet. The elevator dinged on Claire's floor. She hugged me in that brief, tight sister way and said, "See you in the morning." I slept. Not well, but enough. Morning arrived soft and bright, the kind of light that makes you believe in good outcomes. The suite where we were getting ready smelled like hairspray and coffee and someone's orange slices. The hair person, Tasha, put on a playlist of mellow pop music that ducked in and out of my attention like a friendly host. I got my makeup done last. When I looked in the mirror, for a second, I didn't recognize the calm woman looking back at me. She looked like she had secrets and good posture. At 12:15, there was a knock at the door. Heather went to open it. It was Bree, clipboard in her queenly hands. "We're right on schedule," she said, beaming. "And the sitters are set up in the Birch Room. They've got a little tent, a projector with a movie loaded, snacks, water, everything. Lily already visited to see where she'll go after the ceremony. She loved the crayons." "Great," I said, unclenching one invisible fist. "And your sister asked me to tell you she'll be in 10 minutes. "Perfect." I stood to shake out my arms like a runner. 5 minutes later, the door opened. It wasn't Claire. It was Max, in tiny dress shoes, holding Sophie's hand. Behind them, pale and determined, was my sister. For a second, my brain refused to process it. The picture was almost comical at first glance. Max's shirt slightly untucked like he'd high-fived a door frame. Sophie in a pink dress with a bow that had slipped to one side, her tiny fingers clutching her brother's like he was pulling her into adventure. And Claire behind them, jaw set. The room stopped. The curling iron paused midair in Tasha's hand. Heather's eyes widened to saucers. Someone's phone kept playing a pop song very cheerfully, as if narrating a completely different scene. "Hey," Claire said, voice too bright, like brittle glass in sunlight. "We're here to wish the bride good luck." Every part of me wanted to leap forward and hug those two little faces because they are my family and because they looked undeniably adorable. Another part of me, the part that had slept with a hard knot in my chest for weeks, went cold. I swallowed and forced my voice to come out gentle. "Hi, you too," I said, pasting a smile on like a Band-Aid. "You look amazing." Max puffed out his chest. "I have shoe blisters already." Sophie looked up at me with round eyes and said, "Cake." "In a little while," I said automatically. Behind them, Claire was watching my face like it contained an answer she couldn't find anywhere else. "They were nervous," she said softly, and then more quickly, like she was already defending herself. "I thought it might help if they saw you." "Okay," I said, because it was both true and a test. A 5-minute visit is fine. I looked at Bree, who had materialized in the doorway like a silent guardian, her expression careful. 5 minutes, I repeated, to everyone and to myself. "Then the sitters will walk you down the hall so you can get your snacks, okay?" Max made a face. "Snacks are boring." "You haven't had Bree's venue popcorn," Heather chimed in. Bless her bravery. "It's magic." Sophie clapped like popcorn was an incantation. I crouched so I was eye level with them and said, "Do you want to see my dress close up?" I moved slowly, giving Claire time to step in if she wanted to veto the intimacy. She didn't. I held out the skirt so they could touch the tulle. Sophie giggled like it tickled her fingers. Max said, "It's like a cloud." I looked up at Claire. Her face had softened, the fight slipping out of her eyes like a tide. For a second I thought, we're going to make it. Then there was another knock on the door. Bree opened it to reveal, like a stage cue, Daniel's cousin Hannah. And behind her, her twins, in suspenders. Heather muttered, "Oh no." Hannah smiled like this was a family picnic. "We heard there was a kid room and thought we'd drop them off now. Just wanted to show them where they'll be so they don't freak out later. Also, can they peek at the bride?" Bree moved gracefully into her role. "Hi. The Birch room is ready for drop-off. The sitters are waiting and would love to check them in. We're keeping the bridal suite limited to the bridal party to keep things calm." Hannah blinked, her smile tightening. "1 minute. We're family." I could feel the room waiting to see what I would do, like a collective held breath. I stood, shoulders back, and let my voice be warm but steady. "I love that you brought them early. That's perfect. The sitters are wonderful. They'll make it really fun. I need it quiet in here, though." Hannah's jaw worked. For a second I saw the email chain that could bloom from this moment like mold. Then she nodded. "Sure." She turned to the twins. "Let's go get stickers, okay?" They left. Bree mouthed thank you at me. I turned back to Claire. She was looking at me with a mixture of pride and bristle. "I can take them down," she said quickly. I told them they were just saying hi. "Okay," I said. Relief tried to creep in. "Thank you." "Max," she said, "say bye to Andy." He threw his arms around my waist, almost toppling me, and I laughed. Sophie patted my dress like it was an animal. "Bye-bye, Cloud," she said gravely. "I'll see you so soon," I promised. "And you'll get popcorn." They nodded. Claire took each of their hands and turned to go. At the door, she paused and looked back at me. Something moved across her face. Fear, maybe. Or a memory of every fight we'd ever had that had ended in tears we pretended were about something else. "If they're unhappy," she said softly, "I'm bringing them back to me." "In the Birch room," I said, matching her softness with my own. "I'll come to you between photos." She nodded. They left. I realized I had been holding my breath again and let it go. The room began to hum back to life. Hairspray sounds, soft chatter. Tasha pinned my veil. Someone adjusted the bouquets. Heather handed me water like I might forget how to swallow. We lined up. The music started. The doors opened. The ceremony space looked exactly like the version I had held in my head. Sunlight angling through the windows. Chairs in perfect curved rows. Flowers like small joyful exclamations at the ends. Daniel stood at the front looking like someone I had known in every version of my life, and I thought, "Oh, there you are." Bree cued the procession. Bridesmaids went, one by one, like pretty dominoes. Lily looked solemn and perfect, a little turtle in a flower crown, dropping petals with the concentration of a scientist. People smiled. Someone said a tiny ah. My chest went warm. Then, my turn. The music swelled in that cliched way that still got me right in the ribs. I took a breath and stepped forward. Halfway down the aisle, somewhere to my left, a sound rose. A small sound, but in the quiet it was a bell. A child's cry. It lifted, lingered, like a question that hadn't been answered. I kept walking, but every step had a tremor in it now. I didn't turn my head. I didn't need to. I knew the shape of that cry like people know their own names. "Sophie." I reached the front. Daniel's eyes widened, searching my face. I smiled that fake real smile again, the one I'd practiced. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved." The cry came again, closer. And now there was shushing. Someone whispering in that frantic soft way people do when they're trying to soothe and apologize at once. The officiant faltered. Daniel's hand found mine and squeezed. Bree moved like a shadow down the side aisle, invisible to most, visible to me because I had learned to clock her movements like a weather report. She disappeared through the side door that led to the hallway where the Birch room was. The cry stopped. Silence settled again like a careful blanket. The officiant, bless him, resumed, voice steady. My heartbeat slowed. I thought, okay. Crisis averted. We said the words. It felt like someone had made language just for this, just for handing your life over and being handed one back that matched. We were pronounced. People clapped. It was done. As we walked back up the aisle, it happened. The side door opened a crack. Sophie's face appeared, flushed and damp, eyes red. Behind her, Claire's hand, trying to pull her back. Sophie saw me. She let out an enormous, joyous, wobbly, "Ow-ie." Time bent. I saw Claire's face, resolve breaking, mother instinct surging, panic and love and everything at once. And then, before Bree could reach them, before anyone could make sense of anything, Sophie wriggled free and ran. Right toward me. right into the aisle. For half a second, my body didn't move. My brain tried to calculate the number of ways this could play out. Let her run to me, scoop her up, keep walking, or stop, address it, risk the turning into whispers. Daniel squeezed my hand. The silent were a team pressure. And then Sophie was there, her tiny patent leather shoes tapping against the aisle runner. She reached me with a face so open and happy it made my chest ache. "Anai, I saw you," she announced, her voice echoing in the quiet like she'd just declared she'd found buried treasure. I crouched automatically, because she's 3, because I love her, and put my hand on her shoulder. "Hi, sweet pea." The crowd let out a soft ripple of laughter. Not mean, not unkind, just the way people laugh when something feels human and sweet. Behind her, Claire was frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide with that look that lives between apology and defiance. Bree had reached her now. I could see her hand hovering near Sophie like she was ready to guide, but didn't want to force. I took a breath, the kind you make before stepping into cold water. "Sophie, guess what?" I said softly, pitching my voice like it was just for her. "Andy's about to take pictures, and then we're going to have cake. Can you go with Mommy to get some yummy snacks first?" She pouted for a beat, glancing at Daniel, who smiled and wiggled his fingers in a little wave. "Cake later," she repeated, as if confirming. "That's right," I said. "Cake later." She nodded solemnly and let Bree take her hand. Bree moved fast but gentle, like this was choreography she'd practiced. Claire mouthed sorry at me before disappearing with them into the hallway. The music swelled again, and we walked the rest of the aisle. I smiled for the cameras, but my hands were clammy. As soon as we reached the end and ducked out into the side corridor, I let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Daniel put his forehead against mine. "You handled that like a pro." I wanted to cry, I admitted. "Me too," he said. "But she's 3. What are you going to do?" We posed for photos. We laughed in all the right places. But my eyes kept drifting to the Birch Room door down the hall, where I could sometimes catch a flash of pink dress or hear the muffled squeal of a child. By the time we moved to the reception hall, the tension in my shoulders had settled into something heavier. The seating chart was perfect, the lights glowed just right, the music was soft and low. For a few blessed minutes, I thought maybe, we were back on track. We did our first dance. It was clumsy in the way I hoped it would be, because we are not dancers, and our joy lives in not caring about that. People clapped. Someone whistled. We sat down for dinner. Speeches began. My dad's voice cracked halfway through his toast, and I saw Claire dab at her eyes at her table. For a heartbeat, I thought, we're okay. Then, right as the main course was being served, I saw a movement in my peripheral vision. The Birch Room door had opened, and all 3 of Claire's kids came running in, not to her table, but toward the dance floor. They were laughing, weaving between the servers like a little parade. Sophie tripped and was scooped up by Max, who was grinning like this was the best game in the world. And behind them, not rushing, not even looking flustered, was Claire. She was carrying her clutch like she'd just strolled in from a casual errand. She saw me across the room and gave the smallest shrug. Bree was already in motion from the far side of the room, weaving between tables to intercept. I put my fork down. Daniel touched my arm. "Stay seated," he murmured. But I didn't. I stood. The music kept playing. People kept eating. But I could feel the shift, the low hum of curiosity from our guests, the awareness that the bride was walking toward the middle of the room with her eyes locked on someone. Claire met me halfway, right where the dance floor met the tables. The kids orbited her legs like moons. "We just came in to say hi to Grandma," she said, voice light, like this was nothing. "Claire," I said, keeping my voice low but firm. "They can say hi in the Birch Room. That's the plan we agreed on." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "They're fine. They're not hurting anything." "This is the exact situation we talked about," I said. The smallest flicker of guilt passed across her face before she bent to Sophie. "Say hi to Auntie, and then we'll go." Sophie, sensing tension, wrapped herself around my leg. And that was when I realized, if I pushed it right here, in front of everyone, it would become a scene. If I let it go, it would set a precedent for the rest of the night. I had about 2 seconds to decide. And then my mom's voice came from behind me, quiet but edged. "Girls. Not now." Claire straightened. "Fine," she said. She scooped Sophie into her arms and gathered the other 2 with a look. "We're going." As they left, I caught Bree's eyes. She gave me a small nod. Not victory, just solidarity. The rest of the night? It went. People danced. We cut the cake. But there was a hairline crack in the air that didn't seal back up. When I tossed the bouquet, Claire didn't even come onto the dance floor. And when she left at the end of the night, she hugged me quickly, without looking me in the eye. I thought maybe that was the worst of it. It wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to a Facebook post. It was Claire, and the photo she used made my stomach drop. The photo was a close-up of Sophie in her pink dress, sitting on the floor of the birch room with her thumb in her mouth. She looked small and shy. The caption read, "When you're only a few doors away from your mommy, but you're not allowed to see her because rules are more important than family." The comments were already pouring in. That's heartbreaking. I'd never go to a wedding like that. What's wrong with people? Poor baby. Weddings are for family. A couple of her friends tried to lighten it with, and she's adorable. But the tone was clear. I was the villain. Daniel was still half asleep when I shook him. "She posted it," I said, my voice flat. He sat up. "Posted what?" I shoved my phone toward him. His eyes scanned the screen, his jaw tightening. "Oh, come on. This makes it look like I locked her kid in a basement," I said. My stomach was flipping. "Do not respond," he said firmly. "Do not comment, do not like, do not even look at it again." "I can't just." "Yes, you can," he interrupted. "If you comment, it'll explode. If you don't, it'll die down. Her friends don't know the whole story, and they're not going to. They're not your audience." But the thing was, some of the people in the comments were my audience. Friends from high school, a girl I used to work with, a cousin who'd RSVP'd yes, all now seeing me through Claire's framing. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Ignore it. I've already spoken to her. She's emotional. She'll take it down." "She won't take it down," I said out loud, more to myself than to Daniel. And I was right. By lunchtime, not only was it still up, but Claire had added another post. This time a group shot of her kids in their dress clothes, with the caption, "My everything. Always welcome in my heart, if not in every place." I couldn't eat. Every bite of the sandwich Daniel made me tasted like cardboard. Around 2 p.m., my Aunt Lori called. "You want me to say something?" "Because I will. I have zero problem getting in the comments and setting the record straight." "No," I said quickly. "That will make it worse." She huffed. "It's already bad. People are talking. Hannah called me to ask if you were really that strict about it." "I was," I said, my voice breaking a little. "Well, good," Lori said. "It's your wedding." She agreed to the plan. She broke it. That's on her. That night, Daniel and I went through the photos from the photographer's preview. They were beautiful, sunlight through the windows, my dress floating as we walked, Daniel laughing at something I whispered. And then there it was. A shot from the end of the ceremony. Sophie, mid-run down the aisle toward me. My face frozen between joy and panic. "It's a great photo," Daniel said gently. "It's the photo that will prove her point if she wants it to," I said. 2 days later, Claire still hadn't taken her posts down. I finally texted her, "Can we please talk?" She replied instantly, "I'm not ready." "Not ready for what?" I typed, then deleted it. Instead, I sent, "I love you. I don't want this to be the end of us." She didn't answer. By the end of the week, I'd gotten 3 messages from people who were at the wedding saying they thought the kids were fine and didn't cause a problem, so maybe I was overreacting. Each one felt like another little twist of the knife. And then, the AITA post appeared. Claire hadn't tagged me, but she'd clearly written it herself. Same story, from her perspective. It was on her private Facebook at first, then someone screenshot it and dropped it into a public wedding drama group. And from there, it found its way to Reddit. The headline read, "AITA for bringing my kids to my sister's no kids wedding when she made one exception, but still treated them like they were unwelcome." The top comment was already at 4K upvotes, not the AH. "That bride sounds controlling." I clicked away before I saw more. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours, thinking about whether to make my own post. Part of me wanted to set the record straight. Part of me wondered if it would just make me look worse. By morning, I made a decision. I was going to post my side. I wrote exactly what happened. How Daniel and I decided on a child-free wedding. How we told everyone months in advance, offered to arrange sitters, even offered to cover the cost for immediate family. How Claire was furious at first, then agreed to the compromise of the birch room with certified childcare and scheduled check-ins. How I made one exception for Lily to be a flower girl, but held the line on no kids in the ballroom. I described Sophie running into the ceremony, Claire bringing all 3 kids into the reception mid-dinner, and the Facebook posts afterward. I didn't embellish. I didn't name anyone. I even wrote, I love my nieces and nephew, and I'm sad this has caused tension, but I feel like I bent as far as I could without breaking my own boundary. At the bottom, I asked the question, AITA for sticking to the no kids rule, even for my sister? I hovered over post for a long minute. Daniel came into the kitchen, saw my finger on the mouse, and said, if you're going to do it without expectation. This isn't about winning. It's about telling your truth. I clicked. The first comment came in 2 minutes later. NTA. You made a reasonable compromise, and your sister agreed to it. She broke the agreement. That's on her. The next one, NTA. This is why people have child-free weddings in the first place, because some parents think the rules don't apply to them. By the 10th comment, the tide was clear. People were defending me. Some even quoted back lines from my post about offering to cover childcare and said it was above and beyond. I felt a mix of relief and shame, because here were strangers siding with me, but my own sister might never speak to me again. About an hour in, the post hit the front page. That's when my phone started buzzing in a whole new way. Friends sent me screenshots. Someone tagged me in a Twitter thread where people were debating the ethics of child-free weddings. I saw comments like classic entitled sibling and bridezilla in reverse, sisterzilla. Then my cousin texted me. Claire saw the post. My stomach dropped. An hour later, Claire messaged me directly for the first time in weeks. So now you're telling the internet about our family drama? I wrote back. It was already on the internet. I just told my side. She replied instantly. Your side? Leaves out that Sophie was crying for me during the ceremony, and I didn't want to abandon her. I didn't leave it out. I typed back. I said she ran to me. I comforted her, and she went back with you. I didn't lie. Her next message hit harder. You made me feel like I had to choose between being your sister and being a mom. And now you've made me into a villain to strangers. I sat with that for a long time before answering. You made me choose between keeping my word to every guest and giving in to you. I kept my word. That doesn't mean I don't love you. She didn't reply. By that evening, my post had over 25,000 upvotes. The consensus was a clear NTA, but buried in the comments were a few white EAs and ESHs from people who thought I should have just let it go for family. I read every single one. I wish I hadn't. When I finally closed my laptop, I felt wrung out, like I'd been yelling all day without raising my voice once. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I expected a package. It was Claire, and she was holding a manila envelope. Claire stood in the hallway like she'd been planted there for hours. No kids, no car seat visible behind her in the driveway. Just her, and that manila envelope clutched to her chest like a shield. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. He gave her a cautious nod as she passed. She sat at the table, set the envelope down, and just looked at it for a long moment before speaking. This is my maid of honor speech, she said finally. The one I was supposed to give. I didn't touch it. I wrote it before all this. Before the fights, before the Facebook posts, before the aisle thing. She let out a short laugh that had no humor in it. I thought you should have it anyway. Claire. She held up a hand. Let me talk first. I leaned back. I've been reading the comments on your post, she said. I know you didn't tell people it was me, but I recognize myself. And most of them think you're right. I stayed quiet. That hurt, she admitted. Not because I think you're wrong, but because I realized how many times I've done this. Made it about my kids, made exceptions for myself, pushed past other people's boundaries because I thought family was a trump card. Her voice cracked. And you never called me on it. Not really. Until now. I swallowed. I didn't want to lose you. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. You didn't. I just needed to see it from outside. Watching strangers argue about me on the internet was like holding a mirror I didn't ask for. We sat in that quiet for a beat. Daniel poured coffee into 3 mugs and set one in front of her without a word. I'm sorry, she said finally. For breaking the plan. For making you the bad guy to my friends. For everything. Some part of me wanted to fling all the hurt back at her, to tell her how the Facebook posts felt like little knives, how I'd stood in my own reception hall with my stomach in knots because I was afraid of my own sister. But instead, I just said, I'm sorry too, for making you feel like you had to choose. We both knew there were things we weren't saying, that I'd still have a no-kids wedding if I could do it over, that she'd probably still try to push if she thought she had a chance. But maybe that was the point. She pushed the envelope toward me. "Read it whenever you want. Or don't." I took it. The paper inside felt heavier than it should have. We talked for another half hour, not about the wedding, just about her job, the kids, a show we both liked. When she left, she hugged me a little longer than usual. After the door closed, Daniel said quietly, "So, are we good?" "I think we're better," I said. Later that night, after he'd gone to bed, I sat at the table and opened the envelope. Her speech started with a story about the time we tried to bake a cake at ages 10 and 12 and ended up with something that looked like a deflated soccer ball. It talked about how I'd been her first call when she went into labor with Lily, and how she'd always thought of me as the safest place she knew. The last line was, "I love you. Thank you for letting me stand beside you today." I put it back in the envelope, closed it, and slipped it into my wedding album. The internet had decided I wasn't the AH. Maybe they were right. But that night, I realized something. There's no clear verdict in family. There's only what you can live with, and who you can keep sitting at your table after the plates are cleared. And I wanted Claire there. Always.